Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And in the wake of the OpTic Legacy match, many people have been raising questions. What does this mean, if anything, for the OpTic Texas roster going into the new season? We got to listen in with the team for a good few minutes during a strike zone domination, and the statistics have played out in a pretty difficult way, especially for Shotzzy. Prid with a 1.2, Dashy with a 1.2, Shotzzy struggling on the scoreboard. Is this a taste of things to come, or is this just a Call of Duty Ghost show match as we saw last night? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty of drama around the kind of a gaming world at the moment, especially on the COD side. There is this first look potentially at the new Warzone map in Modern Warfare 3. So yeah, basically it's going to be premiered at COD on October the 5th, and then right after that is when the beta launches and everything gets going again. So yeah, we'll see. Warzone, you guys know how it is. There was also this that was rumoured that XDefiance is looking at an October 17th launch, which is definitely later than they would have planned it to be, I believe, initially. But if there were no issues during that playtest the other day, apparently October 17th is the date that they're targeting, which is, you know, it's not atrocious. I think most people expected it to come out probably in like August. They've missed the window by a couple of months, I guess. But still, the game's going to be around for years. And I don't know, what I saw the other day looked pretty promising. So yeah, it seems like the timeline is for this month. We've got COD Next and the beta in a couple of days' time. Then there's the Halo World Championship. Then potentially the XDefiant launch alongside kind of like the second weekend of the beta type thing. And then the game comes out in early November. Now, this has been a big talking point lately coming out of the Overwatch League. Yesterday, the Overwatch League concluded, the grand finals ended, and the championship came to an end. The belief is that the OWL will now effectively call it a day and shut down. We believe that the organizations are being offered $6 million by Activision to say, you know what, take this money and call it a day. Yes, they paid however much to get in, and I think it was less in the OWL than they eventually charged in the CDL, but still, it wasn't nothing at all. And probably if they didn't pay them out any money, they would get sued by these organizations to be like, well, you promised us this and this happens. So apparently Activision have come to an agreement where they say, all right, guys, you can take 6 million and leave your spot and we'll call it a day, or you can not take the 6 million and we'll keep it around. But the feeling is from, well, even we get this from OWL observers, thank you for everything, and that was the general feeling with, you know, from others that were involved in the space last night, that, yeah, thanks all for the life-changing experience. It's now time for it to come to an end. It feels like that's what's happening here, is that pretty much everyone involved in the Overwatch League expects that to be it now for the OWL, which is, yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. I think at some point this is going to happen. What this means for the CDL is another question, because if they are doing this whole, well, 6 million and we'll call it a day thing, will they not do that in the CDL at some point? What do Microsoft think about it when they come in? So big questions to be raised, but the OWL was around a couple years before the CDL, so maybe we have 2 more years left until the same thing happens again. That is one question. So last night, if you guys didn't see it, the OpTic Dynasty guys with bows instead of formal played against the brand new OpTic Texas team, and it's pretty rare to see at all, really, any insight as to a new roster before the season has begun. It's almost always happens that you don't get to see them play until the game launches, and then maybe you get some scrims. Usually OpTic or some other teams for a couple of days might stream some scrims, but nowadays that seems to happen less and less frequently, and even then you don't usually get to see the team play until the first official CDL matches of the season, whether that be on LAN or online. Whereas OpTic Texas were playing a game last night, and it seems like there might be a slight way, I don't know if Activision are less strict on it as they used to be, but, you know, it's good that OpTic were able to do this. Yes, it was a show match, but the fact that they were able to get their brand new team of 4 playing together has been a bit of an issue over the last few years, and it was able to happen. Now, they did get beaten quite comfortably. Yes, some of the maps were close, but it was 5-1 in the end to the OpTic Legacy guys, with, to be fair, the world champions from that season in Crim and Karma, Bose, who was a great player in that game, especially Search and Destroy, and then Scump, who's just ridiculously good and competitive in everything he plays. And we'll look at some of the numbers here in a second, and we'll see some of the clips as well. As Kenny says, Ghost S&D is still a match. I agree with this one, right? Ghost Search and Destroy has always been phenomenal, and it remains that way. To be fair, that was the only map that they won on that Octane Search and Destroy, so I guess he would say that. Yes, definitely a fun time for the players, but does this mean anything for OpTic Texas going forward? Yes, it was Ghosts. Yes, it was, you know, a game they're not so familiar with, but we think that Dashy and Kenny and Pred, they played some of this game. Shotzzy, I think, inevitably was going to have a hard time, and it does feel like to me that it was reminiscent in a way of when he first came into COD, competing in MW19 and was getting called Botsy, was drawing 0.6s, wasn't having a particularly good time. We know over the years that's turned out to be a rather different story, but still, he wasn't having the greatest time yesterday.
The whole game has to be consistent. Just a couple moments of excellence are not enough, but excellence displayed on one side of the screen. You see the man standing up. That's an X Games gold medalist, ladies and gentlemen. He takes map 1 alongside his teammates on OpTic Legacy. Map 1.
The Texas doing well. Let's see if we could do a listening with OpTic Texas and see how they're playing.
Front B, absolutely. Two of them. Other guys one.
He's not telling me? Yeah, front B on me. I got nade on him. No, front A. I got the guy B. One shot.
Beat him now. He's on the stairs.
Another guy front B, one shot.
It's not here. One shot front B, please.
Yo, one sec. Yo, he's front A. He's going right side.
Go to C someone.
I can't.
Yeah, stand left stairs.
Yeah, I'm one shot.
Left stairs, dead. Kitchen. No, kitchen.
Nice, 3.
That's 3. Go B then.
I'm going B.
Okay.
Mid.
Mid weak.
And I'll B. I'll go.
I got on kitchen, I think.
We're good. Just play kills.
Yeah.
We should play for C, low key.
Yeah, 100%.
They're gonna have B on lock.
The guy B just on
right staircase. All right staircase.
Nice,
I got it. He's front B.
Top cat, mid-stairs.
Yeah, he's really left side. On the left side.
I'm trusting you with
Yeah,
that.
mid-stairs.
Just go see.
I want to see.
Yeah, C steps.
stairs. Wow.
I'm holding A. You all 3 go C.
I C stairs, bro. He's sitting top of the C stairs.
Yeah, he's top guy as well. Top guy and then C steps. If we trade C up, they're gonna. Oh wait.
C steps. Fuck, that's not
He's showing the fucking iron up there. C stairs weak. Yeah, top cat and man. Top cat. Yeah,
Go on A.
I see him.
One more A. One bullet. Seth.
C. Nice. Only got C. Help C.
Oh shit, he's by himself.
Yeah. Just look right there. Yeah, you just look right there. That's it. I'll get mid. I'll give you top cat on you, Brent.
Go B.
One shot, kitchen down.
I'm getting up.
One more. You see stairs.
What is C? On C right now.
We're on B.
I'm up B.
He's gonna go kitchen. He's going front A. He's gonna go front A.
Right there.
He's gonna go front A.
Yeah.
Kitchen and A. Kitchen and B.
I don't see him A yet.
On kitchen dead.
Help him kitchen.
I'm coming.
On A. Go A steps A.
You gotta get the guy, AG.
Yeah, I got him. Absolute. There's 2 there, bro. There's 2 there.
Oh, he's backside. Wow.
2 there.
Backside A. Alright, 2 there.
I got
Just run to C stairs. Go through the back left. We have to trade that out.
Yeah, we just gotta keep trading.
Okay, so yo, mid steps. Like cat
C
steps.
steps kind of weak. C steps kind of weak.
They can go front B, bro.
Yo, one's holding this cat.
Mid-stairs, go cat. Cat on mid and cat.
I'm looking for mid.
Cat, one left.
Cat.
He's there.
Cat. Nice.
I'll play B.
I'm getting on C.
Damon, what has been like playing these retro CODs the last 2 weekends, and have you been having a fun time?
I mean, I don't even think I really woke up today. I was kind of worried about this one, but it's been fun. This game wasn't as good as Black Ops 2, but I had a good time.
I mean, I don't want to throw any daggers, you know what I'm saying? It was G Jizzle. It was a great game. I had a good time. I had to prove some people wrong who said, they didn't want me here. You know what I'm saying? You did. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate. He said it. That's all that matters.
So this was the moment, of course, where the OpTic Texas guys took to the stage for the first time we got to see them in action, and some glimpses of what this team might potentially be like. Now, had this been Black Ops 3, had this been MW2, had this been Vanguard, I think we probably have a different story in terms of the results, and it would be nice to run it back again, or even it would be nice to run it back on like Halo or something and allow Shotzzy to actually get his own back on being forced on the Ghost game where he knows no callouts. He was not even using focus on one of the maps. If you guys aren't familiar, back in Black Ops 2, the toughness perk was an absolute necessity. Pretty much everyone would always use lightweight, toughness, and dexterity. That was like the holy trinity of perks to use in that game. Toughness made it so that when you got shot, you didn't flinch up to the moon. Usually over the coming games, they got rid of this feature because it was like, well, everyone's going to run that because it's almost essential. And from Black Ops 3 Advanced Warfare, they kind of stopped making this as a perk. But in Ghosty, it was a perk called Focus. and you just had to run Focus on every class. If you weren't running Focus, unless you were on a shotgun class maybe, then you're a bit delusional. And unfortunately, Shotzzy didn't know any better. So he ran one of the maps, I think it was the strike zone maybe, without Focus on, which was not going to be the best for him. Now, there was a nice little bit of respect there between the pairs, because as Dashy comes out and says, such typical gutty at Scump, and this is the thing, it does make me think, damn, like, what if Scump was still competing? There could have been a world where there was, I mean, look, I like Kenny, I think he's going to be a great fit for OpTic Texas, but there was a world in which there was no Kenny and there was Scump instead on that roster, which would have been phenomenal, but yeah, that is not how it is, at least for now. Maybe if next year's game is better, Scump might decide to return. But yeah, Scump gave Dashy some props. My boy Brucey was ironed up, nobody is breaking that, and definitely Dashy when he really did lock down lines of sight, especially how quick you kill in that game with the Remington R5, which was the go-to AR in that title. I mean, Dashy's going to absolutely fry with it. But the numbers didn't look so pretty for OpTic Texas, especially because they actually outslayed. They had more kills over the series than OpTic Legacy did, but yet they lost the series. This might not be, and so thanks to ESWC_S as TGU Swag who actually put this together, because these are the full numbers for the entire series, the totals at the bottom, and then the team KD. So yeah, OpTic Legacy, maybe there were some team kills in there or something which changed this around, like the numbers aren't quite perfectly correlated, but it's close enough. They had a 0.98, and OpTic Texas had a 1.01. So yeah, crazy to think about that the team that lost 5-1 actually outslayed, but and maybe this is like, oh, well, OpTic Texas, it's a sign of how it's going to go for their season. They're going to outslay big time and not play as well as a team. And sure, I get it, right? But at the end of the day, it is, they're playing Ghost, especially in the respawn modes. If you don't really know what you're doing, it's incredibly difficult to actually translate your kills into good point scoring opportunities. I remember watching that Freight Blitz they played. They got so many kills and didn't really get that many captures. Part of it, I think, was Pred not really knowing that playing the objective was a bit of a necessity. Like, Pred does kind of need to get in the point there and score some more points than he was. So, there was that element. I think maybe OpTic Texas thought, well, we're playing some of these respawn modes. Let's just, Shotzzy can do the OBJ work, because maybe the thinking was, oh, back then there was an OBJ player, there was a Slayers and all this stuff. But even back in Ghosts, there was starting to be an understanding that kind of all the players had to do everything when it was necessary. There were obviously slower and faster players, but in Black Ops 2, you had an anchor, right, who was just there to sit in spawn with an M8 and hold the spawns. That was Clayster's role on, Complexity, for example, at the time. Whereas in Ghosts, because things were quicker, you could run at full pelt forever. You had like agility, dead silence. You could run everywhere you wanted. The fact that dead silence was fully silent was just so good as well. You could just run with Marathon the whole time. It was just such a good game, especially for Search and Destroy, for doing some of the flank routes that you could pull off in that game compared to what you could do today. But it was starting to become realised that, the players all needed to chip in, right, in terms of getting on the points for the flag captures, but also getting in the zone for blitz. Of course, you've got your players that, Nadeshot, for example, at OpTic back in the day, he's the one that would sneak through to get the caps, and I think that's what OpTic Texas thought that Shotzzy might do. But still, the other guys needed to chip in, and they did pretty well in terms of the slaying on those maps. I mean, that map 3, Prid was 31 in 21, Dashy was 27 in 21, but Shotzzy wasn't having a particularly good time. And it makes sense that Shotzi's going to struggle here, right? He's been thrown into the blender, never really played this game before, and he's expected to be the guy who's doing all the objective work and throwing himself on the points. So I think it's always going to end quite unfortunately for Shotzzy. But if we look at the overall numbers, Scump had a 1.14, Crim had about a 0.9, Calm had a 1.19 or 1.12, sorry, and then Bows had about a 0.8. And on the other side, Dashy a 1.24, Pred a 1.22, Kenny even, and then Shotzzy with a 0.6. So this is a similar number to when Shotzzy first came in 2019, and he was drawing 0.6s in Domination, for example, and people were calling him Botsy and all this stuff. So I think that Shotzzy, compared to some other of his contemporaries, is probably a slightly slower learner than others. I don't think this is a bad thing necessarily at all, but it does remind me of when he first came into the CDL. Took him some time to really get up to speed. Once he did, phenomenal, right? And the fact that he's thrown into Ghost against some world champions from that year, first ever series, probably not going to end well, right? But I think that on the new title, there should be no issues here. But I know that some people have said, well, here we go again, Dashy Pred with big numbers, Shotzzy struggling a bit. Is that going to be the story of OpTic season, getting killed and not converting it? I think it's too too early to make an argument on that, and I thought that their comms sounded pretty good, all things considered. But definitely interested in your thoughts in the comment section below, because, yeah, there might be some parallels, at least, between what we saw yesterday and what we see when the season officially begins. There was also this mention from Attach that let's do some more throwback tournaments with legacy rosters, such as put together the OpTic Dynasty, OpTic with Scump, Crim, Formal, and Karma, and throw it back with the old FaZe team of Clay, Attach, you know, Enable, and Zuma potentially. That'd be really exciting. This stuff is just fantastic content, so it will be great to see more of it over time. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.